And I could envision a scenario where physical gold and silver are rocketing up in price at the same time COMEX price is crashing. That could possibly happen simply because the contracts are being sold off to get dollars, if you will, because it turns out the contracts are fraudulent and people are bailing out.
Gold is holding, but it should be a lot higher. Silver, of course. I mean, it'd be the only commodity in the world, I think, that's at half the value now that it was in 2011. So I remember Jim Rickards, he'd make reference to this regularly. He'd say it's that final snowflake that lands on the edge of a snow-clad mountain peak that causes the avalanche. My question to you, Bill, is, when do you believe that last snowflake is going to fall and create the avalanche that we know is about to come?
Obviously, I do not have a crystal ball. When you ask me when, what I'll tell you is it's happening before your very eyes. It's been happening. You mentioned inflation. Is a stock market at all-time highs? And when I say all-time highs, if you look at the valuation levels, you look at price to book, PE ratio, price to cash flow, price to anything. We've never seen these levels before. We've never seen until this, the last few years, this era, we've never seen basically 0% or even negative interest rates. That is in itself inflation. And what's happening now is inflation is now spilling over into everyday goods. In past years, the populace was fine with it because they get their 401k statements, they get their broker statements, and wow, I'm rich. Everything's great. But now, because the inflation is spilling over into everyday goods, food, it's up and down the chain. It's food, it's services, it's basic necessities, it's everything. Inflation, the genie has been let out of the bottle. Even though all these years with interest rates going further down and further down and stock markets going higher and higher, that in itself was inflation. Now, if you go back, I think over the last, let's say, year and a half to the beginning of 2020 when COVID started and the central banks started pumping money supply out. In the US, I think 35% of all dollars outstanding now have been printed in the last 18 months. So you would expect, that money has to find a home somewhere. And what did it do? It went into stock markets. The stock market doubled. Real estate prices have exploded, but they're at levels that are completely unsustainable. So it's not surprising that we've seen this blow up based on what they've done with the money supply. But there's ramifications to what they've done, and that the ramifications are they let the genie out of the bottle, and now they've let the average person see that the system is cracking. When I say cracking, just go to the grocery store. There are goods that you can't find. Trying to say inflation's 5%. No, inflation's more like 10%, 15%. I think John Williams is up at 20%, shadow stats. And that's the way they used to, they used to calculate inflation. John Williams is just mimicking that. And he's got a number that's triple or more than what they've done now because they've completely bastardized the tabulation of inflation. So to tell you when, all I can say is it's happening before your eyes. And I think stock markets, asset markets themselves are the only thing holding the social fabric together, because if prices went back to just where, go back to the day when Donald Trump was elected in 2016, if you had an $18,000 Dow and real estate prices that were 30% lower than they are now, the populace would be going nuts. There'd be riots. There'd be true riots all over the place, all over the world. And the people have been placated because their statements show they're, quote, wealthy.
Bill, with all the items that we have mentioned that are going up in price, and obviously there's two that is not, but there's an inkling out there, and certainly in the last 2-3 weeks, but we all know that it can change to the drop of a hat. But getting back to gold and silver, we've had an inkling that it's starting to rise. We're starting to see some movement there, but it's way down from where it should be compared to other resources like gold, grains, farm fertilizers, shipping containers. When do you think, is there a time, do you believe that we're at the bottom, and from this point onwards that we may see some good rises in the US prices of gold and silver?
It was just 2 weeks ago that we had the smash, the $1 in a day smash on the COMEX. Understand that in 30 minutes time, $1.6 billion of paper contracts were sold. That represents roughly 10% of global production. There is no $1.6 billion hoard of silver anywhere in the world that could be sold like that. And even if there was, the trader who pushed the button would be unemployed. And he'd be unemployed because what did he do? A trader is supposed to try to sell and get the best price possible. And what they did was they hit the price for 4 or 5%. And that's a function of painting the price, painting the tape, painting the chart, whatever you want to call it. At some point in time, and again, I don't have a crystal ball. I can tell you that supplies are getting tighter and tighter. Silver is definitely tighter from a retail standpoint. What will happen at some point in time, there will be a failure to deliver. In other words, all of these contracts that are outstanding, for gold, I think the number is 90 to 1. For silver, I think it's 300 to 1 as far as the amount of contracts outstanding for every 1 ounce of gold and 1 ounce of silver that actually exists. There are so many. I mean, you could get a family office in the United States or in Europe or probably in Australia. It doesn't have to be a government. It doesn't have to be Russia. It doesn't have to be China. It doesn't have to be a huge institution. I mean, what I'm getting at is with just, I don't know what the number is, maybe $3 billion, $5 billion. You could blow the entire system up by buying the contracts and saying, no, I'm not taking cash delivery. I want the metal. It's a contract. You perform on the metal. And what I'm telling you is at some point in time, there will be a failure to deliver. And that'll be the end of the COMEX. That'll be the end of the LBMA. All the paper contracts will basically become worthless. And I could envision a scenario where physical gold and silver are rocketing up in price at the same time COMEX price is crashing. That could possibly happen simply because the contracts are being sold off to get dollars, if you will, because it turns out the contracts are fraudulent and people are bailing out.
Yeah.
So just understand that the COMEX and the paper contracts are the tail. The physical market is the dog itself. And in no real world does a tail wag the dog forever and ever. And a failure to deliver will display which one's the tail and which one's the dog and which one's actually price the product.
Yeah. So it sounds like we throw away the crystal ball and we look at common sense will prevail. That's what the bottom line will be. Yeah.
That's what you have to do. In today's world, it's so hard to know. I mean, you read an article, you have to vet the article. You watch an interview, any information that you get, you have to verify for yourself that it's real. It has to pass the bullshit test.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.